Joining us, your insight is always valued. Thank you. We now move over to South Asia, where a suicide bombing struck an army school bus in Pakistan's restive Balochistan province today, killing 6 people, including at least 3 school children. The attack occurred in the Khuzdar district, where the bus was transporting around 40 students to a military school. Several children were also injured in the powerful blast. Pakistan's military and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif swiftly condemned the attack and accused Indian terror proxies of orchestrating the bombing, although they provided no evidence. Pakistan's military vowed to hunt down those responsible, calling the attack cowardly and Indian-sponsored. India's foreign ministry strongly rejected the allegations, accusing Pakistan of using India as a scapegoat to deflect from its own internal failings and reputation as a terrorism hub. Tensions between the two nuclear-armed nations remain high despite a ceasefire agreement reached on May the 10th after one of the worst escalations in years between the two powers. Both sides continue to blame each other for supporting militant activities, particularly in the disputed region of Kashmir. No group has claimed responsibility for today's bombing, but it follows a rising trend of violence in Balochistan. The attack invoked memories of the 2014 Peshawar school massacre. In March, the Baloch Liberation Army killed 31 people in a train hostage attack. We're once again joined by Cliff Smith, who's a national security and government affairs professional located in Washington. Thank you very much for joining us once again, Cliff. Obviously, this is a tragic terrorist attack that's happened here. What do you make of this attack on this school bus in the region of Balochistan, and what kind of message do you think the attackers are trying to send here?
I mean, there have been separatists in that region for a very long time. And so on some level, particularly when you have a distracted security force because of the competition with India over the terrorist attack in Kashmir and other international tensions, that they might see it an opportunity to take some sort of action. But as you noted, I mean, they didn't really present any evidence linking this to India. I mean, I wouldn't be completely shocked if India had stirred the pot in some ways and tried to help out opponents of the Pakistani government, but I would be beyond shocked if there was any evidence that actually linked India to this attack, which is just not the kind of thing India has ever historically done. So my guess is this is pretty much what it seems. It's separatists in the region, which are well known and very vocal, and a particularly extreme group taking a chance at action when other things are distracting their opponents. Maybe we could learn more. I could be wrong, but that's my initial take.
Yes, and obviously India has rejected these claims as Pakistan didn't provide any evidence. How do you view these rejections, and is this part of a wider blame game between these two nuclear rivals?
Sure. I mean, I would say Pakistan has used terrorism of this sort as and in support of proxy groups as a tool of its foreign policy for decades. And this is not seriously disputed by anybody that knows the region. And so, if anything, I would say that this is sort of, the worst possible the worst possible interpretation is that, Pakistan just simply lying. The best possible interpretation is that they are seeing in others what they know about themselves, which in this case I simply don't think is true. Again, you always want to wait for more facts to come out before you say anything definitive, but that would be my gut reaction to that.
Cliff, this ceasefire between India and Pakistan seems to be holding. How do you analyse the current state of the relations between the two? And do you think this growing rest in Pakistan could spill over, especially in areas like Balochistan, which is where we saw this happen?
Sure, it could. I kind of tend to see a lot of this as more of the same, sadly. The Kashmir dispute is, older than my parents. And even the more recent blow-up, starting with the exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits is, only 30-something years old. So when you look at this kind of thing, it's really not a new dispute. It's just a tiny new chapter. And sure, it was a particularly bloody one and also a particularly horrifying one given the relative peace in the region from the Pulwama attack of 2019 until now. But really, we still have the same fundamental problem. We still have a Pakistani state that simply refuses to accept any Muslim majority region near its borders as being anything but theirs, just because of the nature of their nationalist identity, and an Indian government that thinks that it can take care of its minorities fairly. And if people want to see which one's right, I would just refer them to the demographics of India and Pakistan. Look at how many Pakistani Hindus there were at the founding of Pakistan and how many Indian Muslims they were, and look at how many there are today. As anybody that pays attention to this knows, Pakistani Hindus have diminished greatly to an almost infinitesimal amount, while Indian Muslims have stayed the same or even grown a bit.
Cliff, how do you see this situation developing? Obviously, the tensions are high now between the two nations. Just your final thoughts on this.
I think until the underlying sort of national identity issues get solved and Pakistan pays a real price for its continued aggression on Kashmir, we're going to see the same thing, sadly. Right now, we had a big blow up. Now we're seeing everybody panics because they're afraid of two nuclear powers facing off. Everything cools down because there's lots of pressure. It's not in anybody's interest to blow things up further. So given a few years, we'll repeat this again until something actually affects the underlying cause, which in my view is Pakistan's nationalistic identity that basically requires it to do this, and India's, which requires it to hold on to its own territory. You can tell which one I think is more legitimate, but I think until that dispute is settled in the minds of the Pakistani and Indian elites and those powers that be, and even in the narrative of the people, this will just continue in different forms. It'll rise and fall, but it'll continue.
Cliff Smith, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Well, that is all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more